Okay.
Hello and welcome to Soul-Voyance. I'm Psychic Selina, and today I have my guest Michael Feeley. He is an author. He's done many books and podcasts and talks, public speaking on esoteric subjects, especially ancient Egypt, the pyramids, and various esoteric occult topics. So I'm still reading his book, The Movement Illumination of the World. Here it is, and I recommend you buy this. It's very interesting, especially the mathematical equations he does. And Michael, you get these mathematical equations through like a spirit guide, don't you? You get, I think it's Leonardo Da Vinci is one of them, and one is Tesla. Can you a bit about, I'll just let you talk, just tell us whatever you want about all these amazing equations and what you've been up to and what you're channeling at the moment.
Yeah, what had happened, although it's only a recent discovery for me, is that there was a team of, should we say, advanced minds that were once incarnated on Earth. Mm-hmm. And I've managed to identify 3 of them, but some of them are yet to be identified. But there were these individuals who'd incarnated who are now in spirit, but they're helping from the other side, so to speak, still helping humanity. Now, when they were here, they were here to help humanity. Now they're still helping from the other side. And I'd got a number of them priming me and teaching me and guiding me up until a time when a particular individual would be able to then step in and then continue my learning and continue the teachings. And 2 of the individuals that I managed to identify, one of them is Nikola Tesla and the other one is Isaac Newton. And both of them are obviously famous, well-renowned scientists of our past. Now, the individual who was waiting for me to be ready for him to come in, as you've already mentioned, is Leonardo Da Vinci. And Leonardo Da Vinci has not only done the foreword for the movement book, but he's made many, many contributions throughout it in relation to quantum equations. And these quantum equations are sometimes very complex, but because they come from one of the greatest minds that ever lived, you would expect them to be complex. And I get them as they are written in the book, and I have to work them out to make some kind of sense of them. And a lot of the time, there will just be an image in my head, and I write them down. Sometimes it'll just be a channeled message, and I'm writing them down as they're coming in. Sometimes I'll get an image to give me some kind of idea as to what it's about, and other times I won't. Now, the idea that they don't tell me is that Leonardo has said that when you work it out for yourself, it opens certain doors within you. Mm-hmm. If I was to just tell you, then those doors would remain closed. And obviously, part of my evolution is to have those doors opened. So I have to work them out. And for anybody that looks at them, that they're quite complex because they take science and quantum physics as we know it, and they advance upon it. Now, some of the equations have been sent to secret military scientist who has validated them, saying it's nothing that we have, nothing that we know, but they have validated them as being kind of a genuine quantum equations. So a lot of things are channeled to me, a lot of things are given to me, a lot of guidance is given to me to look at certain things and piece everything together. But because I'm working with 3 of the greatest minds who've ever lived, it is quite, having to keep up with them can sometimes be, quite a task. But at the moment, yeah, it's going well. It's going, in terms of keeping up with them. And some of the things that I'm being taught, that all of the secrets of these paintings behind me and others, and doing it from a personal perspective. Now the reason that this has come about, and again, this is a recent discovery for me. In medieval times, in a past life, in which I do consciously go back to, I was a character called Salai. That's not his real name, but that was his nickname, Salai. Sal. Now, Sal was Leonardo's student for 25 years. He was also Leonardo da Vinci's personal scribe. And that was me in a previous life. So what has happened is I was a scribe for Leonardo in medieval times, and now I'm a scribe for Leonardo in modern times. And what has happened is the analogy that I give is that you are in a 400 by 100 meter baton race, and you're handing that baton to yourself. And the reason I say that is I was present in a former lifetime when Leonardo encrypted all of these secrets into his paintings, and I'm going to be the one that reveals them. Now that's handing the baton to yourself. And that's quite a poetic thing to say, because a lot of the secrets that many scholars and many people have looked into and given an explanation for, some of the answers cannot possibly be known unless there is a personal connection. And because I have a personal connection, I am able to reveal much more about the paintings, much more about the man behind the paintings than anybody else can possibly know. The world is still interested in Leonardo da Vinci. Every time you put the TV on, there's something about Leonardo da Vinci. There's a current Netflix show about Leonardo da Vinci. That there's this real appetite for him. And I think what people are picking up on, but not necessarily knowing why, is that Leonardo is about to return.
I want to ask the pie, the real pie, because that's in your book. It's very interesting. Can you explain to us how what that all means? Because 3.14 is what we taught at school.
Yeah.
And you say it's not the real pie. There's another way. There's another one. What
we are taught, and what even NASA and mainstream science use today, is pi at 3.141. But what they're finding is that it's too short. Only fractionally, but it's too short. Because the coils that they're making are too short. The trajectory back into Earth is too short. When we use a mobile phone, a cell phone, that is a 0.22 second delay, because we're using pi at 3.141. Now, what the Egyptians have done in their pyramid, by using phi, which is the golden ratio, which is the way in which nature reveals her secrets, Isis, they have given us a true corrected pi of 3.144. And how they did that is they've used the number 4, which is the base of the Great Pyramid, and they've divided that by the square root of phi, which then gives you 3.144, which makes pi the correct size. And if NASA were to use that,
what is phi? What's the number phi?
Phi in itself is 1.618,
and that's the Fibonacci, yeah, sequence.
Well, the golden ratio is part of it because it's nature's secret. So when you have the square root of phi, it is 1.272. So when you times 1.272 by itself, you basically got the square root of phi, and the square root of phi, when divided by 4, gives you 3.144, which is corrected true pi. But you can only know that by looking at the Great Pyramid mathematics. It's because they've encrypted the corrected pi inside this monument. So again, it is one just merely one revelation of many that we are being left to find. So for whoever reads that book, for whoever listens to this, if you're in the science world, the problem of pi has now been solved for you, because you now have true pi. And if you begin to use that, then it eliminates the problems that you're finding.
Right, amazing stuff. And some more information about, you were saying last podcast I did with you 6 months ago was about medical science, and that Leonardo was teaching you and telling you about medical stuff. And have you had any more insights on that to share with us?
Yeah, at the time that I wrote the movement, there was some quantum physics that came through, which I found out was in relation to a cure for cancer.
Yes.
But since then, there's been more quantum physics that have come through in relation to the removal of tumours, the removal of cancers as a result of radiation, a cure for dementia. And it goes really along the same kind of lines as the cure for cancer. The cure for cancer came in 3 different sections. So I had one lump of quantum physics that I worked out, and then many months later I had another set which I realized related to the same thing, and then a little while after that I had a 3rd set of quantum equations which again related to the first 2. So it came in 3 sets that I've put together, and it's basically the reversal of all of these major diseases and major illnesses. I've been given the Earth's frequency in which to reverse them, and all these things will be in later publications, again, for some ethical microbiologists to take them on board and do the necessary with them.
Can I say, so what that is this to do with opposites and negative, positive again? It's the reversal of the frequency that causes cancer or mutation, and then they've given you the reversal.
Yes.
Yes.
Basically, what I've found is that all of these diseases, there is an electrical resistance, and it is this electrical resistance that is causing rogue cells. And when you reverse that electrical resistance, then you reverse the evolution of the disease.
Can you do that through meditation, like just for like your own illnesses and things?
It's not through medication per se, but because we are...
Sorry, meditation, like...
Meditation. Yeah. Meditation is a powerful thing because it really is the power of the mind.
Okay.
And when you understand the power of your own mind, then your own mind in itself can reverse anything. Your own mind can do anything. There's a, I think I might have mentioned before, but I have in other places. There's a surgeon in the Philippines that has been witnessed by Western scientists to make insertions on his patients' tissues in his own mind. And he doesn't use scalpels, he doesn't use medical equipment. He makes insertions through the power of his own mind. Now, if you can do that, then just imagine when you do control your own mind, what you can do.
I've had something similar done on me, so I understand that. It wasn't in the Philippines though, but it worked. I know what you mean.
Well, as long as it works, it doesn't matter where it is. But yeah, if we understood the power of our mind, we could basically alleviate ourselves of many things. But our power has been given away and taken away. So we are programmed by limitation, and that includes a limitation of the mind. So when you free yourself of that limitation, then you remove any resistance.
So what's going on in the world? There's a lot of heavy stuff in the world at the moment. How do people individually kind of realign their own timeline? So say, for example, they're steering off into the kind of wrong way. How can they kind of realign themselves? Or can we? Or maybe we can't. I don't know. I'm still working out.
We can. We can do anything. You know, we have to realize that we are the universe itself. So whatever is possible universally is possible for humanity. The first thing you have to realize is that we are vibrational, and our vibrations have been deliberately lowered. And again, talking about the reversal of things, when we begin to reverse that low frequency, it becomes a high frequency once again. And when it becomes a high frequency, we are then realigning ourselves with where we should be. And I mean, if I just use 2 numbers, number 9 is used because it demonstrates a higher understanding. When humans come from celestial to terrestrial, the baby is upside down. So the number 9 has been turned upside down to number 6, the number of man. So we are now the opposite of higher understanding, which is lower understanding. We then get birthed into this terrestrial world, and we have to realize who we are and what we are in order to invert the 6 back to 9. And when you turn the 6 back round, again, you then go from lower understanding back to a higher understanding. And when you are in that position of higher understanding, anything is possible, any alignment is possible, any dimension is possible.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing stuff. A lot of that is in the pyramids, you were saying, a lot of this sort of knowledge. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Have you had any more downloads with that, or any more info on Egyptian stuff?
There's literally constant downloads all the time. I mean, in any given day, there's lots and lots of downloads of different things. In essence, all of these ancient texts, all of these ancient characters, all of these ancient gods are metaphors for this process. And when you look at, again, the Great Pyramid, the Giza Plateau, your Stonehenges, your mystical books, every one of them relates to the self-development and illumination of you. So the pyramids are there as a reminder of how to return back to the higher knowledge. So there's always downloads in relation to how to do that and what it stands for.
When you've seen hieroglyphics, do you automatically know what they mean? Do you get downloads with them? Can you read them?
Sometimes, not all of them.
Okay.
What hieroglyphics really are, the thought process of the high priests. And what they're doing is they're teaching the initiates complex universal knowledge made simple because it's in picturesque form. And when something, we all say that a picture paints 1,000 words. So when you are able to take this complex knowledge and put it into a simplistic picture, that it makes it easier for the initiate to read it and understand it. It's not only a visual thing, it's also a sensory thing, because when you touch the hieroglyphs, you're also having this download just by touching them. So hieroglyphs tend to be the thought form of the high priests.
They developed a lot of technology, didn't they? There's batteries they found and all sorts. What have you seen? I think you said in another interview something to do with you saw orbs with technology in it. Can you tell us a bit more about that? What you actually saw?
Yeah, what I saw was, could only describe really as a very non-metallic, non-lead looking technology. If we were to see earthly technology, there's nuts and bolts, there's rivets, there's a coarseness about it. But when I looked at this, it was in a see-through sphere, because it came into my bedroom, and inside that see-through sphere, there was this almost like clockwork cogs, but it was an advanced. It didn't need wires. It didn't need things that we see that's associated with our technology. It was clearly probably about 200 or 300 years ahead of us. So these sometimes I do get sight of these technologies. When you go into some of the secret rooms of the Great Pyramid, you will see many demonstrations of these advanced technologies that cannot be found on Earth even today. You find writings that are not from Earth. You'll find metals that are not from Earth. You will find many rooms that they can't even access yet because they just look like cavities, but they're not cavities, they're rooms. But when scientists are approaching the cavities, they just see stone walls. But what they don't realize is that when you use a certain word in a certain vibration, then these stones slide open their doors. But you have to have a third eye and voice alignment. And inside these rooms, it is the complete history of humankind. There are many examples of extraterrestrial technologies. There are writings that talk about the 7 entrance points of Earth, 2 of them being the North and the South Pole. So now we know why they're guarded. so
Where,
on.
where are the others? Can you tell us about the 7 points?
Yeah, well, they're all over the world. They're in America, they're in Europe, Australia, the two poles. But
Amazing.
and so when I looked into it, I have found a portal that goes all the way through the North Pole, through the center of Earth, via the Great Pyramid, and it comes out at the South Pole. So it is actually a portal that goes all the way through Earth. It goes through the center of Earth, because in the same writings that talk about the 7 entrance points, it also talks about civilizations in inner Earth.
On different frequencies.
Yes, on different frequencies.
Same with the moon, isn't it?
The moon is not a moon.
No, that's right. What is it exactly? I always get confused, but I know there's 2 moons.
Yeah, there's the moon that we believe is the moon, which is not, which is really a way station. It is an observation post. It was put there to make it look like a planet, to make it look like a satellite, but it's not. Our true moon is called Lilith, and I found that 1,250 miles up from the north of Earth, and it's called Lilith. And the reason it's called Lilith is Lilith means of the darkness, and the reason it's of the darkness is because that moon is now non-luminous. But the moon that we believe to be the moon is not the moon. And when people say to me, do you believe that we ever landed on the moon? And I'll say no, because that's not the moon. So we definitely didn't land on the moon, because that's not the moon. We may well have landed on the artificial way station, but we didn't land on the moon.
Okay. Sure. Okay. In the they say it's 7 Earths. What does that mean? Is that to do with the 7 portals you were talking about?
There is 7 portals. The number 7 is the key to the 3rd dimension. Now, the number 7 is also the limit. It's called the gamut, which is basically the limit, the range of human. So when you then start going beyond 7, number 8, then you start to become in the realms of being holy, because you've then expanded yourself from the usual limit of humanity, which is 7. And that's why we have the 7 wonders, the 7 chakras. We have the head that relates to number 7, because we have 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, and a mouth. It is the number 7. So the number 7 is the key to the 3rd dimension, but it is also our normal limit. And that's why there is 7 entrances, because again, it is that number 7.
It's amazing the numbers in all of this, isn't it? Numbers really feature, and it's all kind of binary codes and numbers, isn't it? A lot of it, even how we're made as well, how we've been formed.
We are formed again by geometry. We are formed in relationship to phi, which gives us the golden ratio. Now, when you look at the torus field, that's the phi symbol, because everything emanates and returns back to the same place. So when we start looking at everyday language of the world, philosophy is the wisdom of phi. When you look at Philadelphia, it is phi of the womb. When you look at the word physical, it is the phi cycle, because we all emanate from one original place, and then we return back to that original place. So a lot of the body relates to phi. If you get your fingertip to your elbow, for instance, it's the golden ratio. It's the same with your face. It's the same with other parts of your body. The golden ratio is the secret of nature, and how nature reveals that secret to us, because we have to understand ourselves in order to understand anything else.
Is that how because I do a lot of predictions on world events and things, and private readings. Is that how we do? Because I still never know how the predictions, how everything is mapped. Is it because it's a certain cycle and it's all kind of binary coded, and that's what we're reading for a given pathway of someone?
Everything in the universe works as a cycle.
Birth, death, it's like a cycle. So we're reading the cycle.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Everything that we experience is a cycle. Everything you can attribute anything to a cycle. The universe works in a cycle, and it never goes away from that cycle. Now we've taken that meaning to the likes of religion, because the word church means circle, which relates to a cycle. The planets are spherical, which are a circle. So the universe, the mathematics and the way in which the universe works is a cycle.
So how do people break out? Because you can imagine some of the readings I'm doing for people, and it's the same old situation, and I've tried to help them, and they're still stuck going round and round. It could be 10 years later, you know. How do they kind of break that cycle? Is it to do with changing the frequency? How would you tell someone like that to, you know, the average person, to, you know, because I try to tell them that they don't really do it, you know?
There's many different ways. I mean, it depends on the depth and the level of cycle you wish to break. I mean, for argument's sake, a very, very basic breaking of a cycle. You get up every morning, and every morning you sit on the end of your bed and you put your left slipper on first. Well, tomorrow, put the right slipper on first. That is a basic breaking of a cycle.
Yeah.
What you are doing then is you are creating new neural pathways.
Gosh, I need to try.
That is just a basic level breaking a cycle. In terms of when you start getting to higher level stuff and you start realizing that you're in a cycle, if it's a cycle that you wish to break, you have to take some kind of determined action to break it. But it comes down to you making that conscious decision that I always go out at 9 o'clock in the morning and I always turn left. Well, then don't. Do something different. Change the routine. Change the predictable outcome. The only person that can change your cycle is yourself by determined action.
But do you think a lot of it is mind controlled, like programming? Could be from past lives, but also this life as well, how we've been brought up in school, and there's some sort of programming. That's quite tricky to break with a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, the whole of the reality is a program. From birth to childhood, to teenage years, to adulthood, to adolescence, to old age, people are programmed to work and think a certain way. But when you realize that you're in a program, that in itself is enough to break the program. And the very fact that we're having this conversation means that we have broke out of that program.
Oh, yes, I've broken out of it.
because we're not meant to be having this conversation. The very fact that we're having this conversation means that we broke out of the program.
Yeah, or sometimes, like, because I used to be a teacher, like a proper teacher, secondary, primary, and it's interesting how life kind of naturally just removed me. I had an illness and then left, but I got better, but I just never went back. I did other things. So it's interesting how life can sometimes, I think you had a similar thing with the police, because you used to be a policeman. You know, when you have a normal job and then you get sort of led to sort of doing something, you know, podcast, or in my case, readings, different things. You get kind of guided that way. It's really interesting, isn't it?
It is. I mean, for me, on a three-dimensional sense, I had already set out my life. I'd already planned my life. I knew, you know, how many days I'd got to work. You know, I knew the date that I was going to be retiring. I knew kind of roundabout what I would be interested in doing after that. So from a three-dimensional sense, before the so-called awakening, I'd already mapped my life out. It was already as I'd intended, and I was working my way through that line that I planned for myself. But there were bigger plans, and of course those bigger plans superseded the smaller plans, because really there was a different mission, there's a different purpose, there's a different reason for being here. And at some point, something will activate you to have that realization. And that's what happened to me. It was a case of there were so many multidimensional experiences that I was having in one go that I could never be the same person again. I could never see the world the same again. I could never have the same values as I had before. So I was, by default, I was put into this other path, but it was a path that I needed to be on. And when you need to be taken from one path to another one, then something will happen to shove you off, to put you onto the right course. Now, at the time, I didn't necessarily realize that, but I certainly do now. And looking back on it, you can see the maneuvers that were in place to make sure that I got on the right path, or should I say, on the right roller coaster.
But that transition can sometimes be quite painful or tricky, can't it? In my case, it was illness, but it might be different things for different people. But it's not an easy transition, is it? It sort of like forces you out of it. Not for everybody. Some people will. It depends on what's supposed to be activated, where you're at, your past life.
Yeah.
So it's very complex stuff, isn't it? Like what we do for a living and where our pathway goes. It's very mathematical, I think.
It can be very tricky, especially if you have no real idea as to what you're moving into. You know, it's that unknown journey, but wisdom is, you know, wisdom is known as the unknown journey. It's the same as the symbology of the winding stairs. You know, with the winding stairs, your next step, you don't know what's coming. You know, you are always walking around the corner. So all of these are symbolic of this path of the unknown. But it can be tricky, it can be difficult. As I say, I had this structured, safe, secure career. I had this life plan. I knew everything about my life. I knew everywhere he was going. Each day I knew what I was going to do. And all of a sudden I went from structure to having no structure, from knowing what was happening to having no idea what was happening.
The police force is a bit like the military. It's quite mind controlled, and the education system is very mind controlled as well, isn't it? But I think when we went into it initially, we didn't, I don't know about you, I wasn't aware fully. I wasn't like how I am now. I was psychic, but not to this level. And I was kind of just thinking, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to be a teacher, but it's just sort of, I have to become one. Originally I wanted to be a doctor, but it's just, you know, I thought I'll have to do a professional job, you know, it's kind of, that's what we're told, isn't it? We have to join or do something. And then as you get older, you think, I don't really want to do that anymore.
That's right. But when you are in that, again, that cycle of the mind control, and it was for me personally, it was a much lesser mind control than it was for others. I was always kind of bordering on the edge of being open and having this innate realization. But if you liken it to when you're going on your holiday and you're traveling on this aeroplane and you're traveling at 600 mile an hour through the air, you have no idea how fast you are going. You don't feel the acceleration because you are moving at the same speed as the aeroplane. So when you are part of that mind control, you are the same speed of that mind control, and you don't have that realization that there's any distinct difference. When you have a realization and you are then going from that linear line to that lateral view, you can begin to see just how entrenched these places are, just how entrenched these organizations are. And the only way in which they can get you to do what you are required to do is by some sense of mind control. The whole world is in some kind of mind control, from from when you're born to when you become president. You know, there's always a level of mind control, because that's how reality is an accepted reality. It's a hive mind. Everybody accepts the same reality. But when you step out of that acceptance, you begin to see other realities, and then you begin to question how ridiculous and controlled that this accepted reality really is. But because we're having this conversation, we have stepped out of them.
Definitely. I had a client a few weeks ago who was a soldier, military. He was in the artillery, he did. And I said, do you, he was probably in his late 20s, early 30s. I said, do you really like your job? Like bombing, his job was artillery, so bombing people and things. And he was like, yeah, I really like it. I just go now and I just do the bombing. I was like, anyway, I gave him the reader, you know, it was actually a love and relationships reading, so it wasn't about his career. But it was like, I was just thinking, that's not normal, is it? But
No, it's not normal. It's not normal in any sense of the word. In fact, it's completely abnormal, and it's basically within the remit of mental illness. But then, for any human being that wants to blindly kill somebody else and then start to say, well, it's war. No, it's murder.
Yes, it's murder, but I think they're so controlled because they take them from a very young age.
What's it?
Is it 16 or 17?
16, with parental permission.
Cadets, don't they, from when they're even younger? So they're kind of told it's normal, and then kind of put them in, and then it's normal.
Well, to their mind, it is, you know, and again, the symbology of the miniatures. That's why they wear dog tags, because they're seen as animals. You know, they stand to attention because they're seen as an erect phallus.
Yeah.
They salute because that is the Illuminati eye within the pyramid. So all of these things are telling you that they're controlled. Now, again, it is not war; it is murder. And for anybody, no, I respect the bravery of the men and women that do what they do. But if they had any sense, they'd realise what they're doing is wrong. They would realise that they're not fighting for their country, they're fighting for a political agenda. They're not. Now,
like I watch the news now, and this in Gaza and all this place, Palestine, all this rubble everywhere, and some pregnant woman was bombed or whatever, died, and you're just thinking, this isn't right. Why is Earth on such a low vibration? Can you explain? Has any guidance come of why we're on such a low vibration? Is there some sort of entities or?
Yes, there is, but again, we've allowed ourselves to remain in that low vibration.
We were talking about the why the Earth is in such a low vibration at the moment. It seems that humanity has gone backwards, not forwards, with evolution. And there are so many wars and destruction, and it just seems like it's just getting worse. So we're talking about entities and maybe reptilians. Can you enlighten us?
There is entities that are not of Earth that are having an adverse effect, and they're using certain people who are on Earth to do the bidding for them. It is really, at the moment, a kind of prison planet, as has been suggested. But we are the ones that are allowing it to happen by not educating ourselves, truly educating ourselves in relation to what's really going on. People would rather speak about, you know, how their football team did on the weekend, or all of these completely irrelevant things, instead of educating themselves and finding out what's going on the planet. What is going to happen, and I don't know when it is going to happen, but there will be a split in Earth dimensions. And those who are not getting it, those who are holding everything back, will remain where they are. But the ones who think, the ones who are trying to evolve themselves to return back to the higher understanding, will be on a different timeline, will be in a different dimension of Earth. That the ones who remain here will eventually lose their power of procreation, and they will die out.
I can really feel this split coming now, even sort of now going into 2026. I think it's 2026 when we'll see this, and a lot of people that go on the more positive, higher frequency, they may even change their career, or lots of changes will happen. But I can actually feel this psychically at the moment. I don't know about you. Can you feel this?
Yeah. Well, in 2026, the Sphinx of Egypt begins to see the star Regulus in
Oh,
the Leo
wow.
constellation. and when I was told many years ago, look where the Sphinx is looking.
We always thinking, don't we, Michael?
In 2026, you have Regulus that is in the constellation of Leo, and it becomes in the gaze of the Sphinx.
Regardless, I think there'll be a new king in May 2026.
There's a lot coming. There's coming. The one thing that I suggest is causing this dimensional split of Earth is going back to this artificial moon again. Because when many years ago, I looked up at the moon as I was walking through forestry, and I saw pulsating grids coming from the moon, and they were coming down to Earth. Now, for the book, I actually did my own quantum equations for what they may be. And my conclusion is, it is those pulsating grids that are tipping the Earth at 23.5 degrees. And it is that 23.5 degree tilt that's going to cause the dimensional split.
Wow.
So the presence of this artificial moon is what is going to separate humanity.
And then how do we, so certain people will gravitate towards one hemisphere or one section, and then the others will be, say, the lower vibration. How does that happen? Is it to do with our frequency?
It will be. I think what's happening is we're being tilted into almost half dimensions, and half dimensions are higher dimensions. It's almost like, you're on a sailing boat, and you are one of those who are leaning over the edge to steer the boat, and as you lean too far, you're touching the water. I think what is happening is the tilt is taking us to touch the water. In this case, touching the different dimensions. So it will just be a vibrational split. It will be a vibrational difference. I mean, dimensions and timelines are just frequency. So if you are matching a different frequency to this one, you'll be in a different place. We are always nipping in and out of different places, but if you maintain the frequency of that place, then you will remain there.
George, can you just talk about that Sphinx thing again? So regardless is the constellation or is the star?
Now, the constellation of Leo,
Yeah,
has one of the main stars is Regulus, which is royal. Now, when in 2026, where the Sphinx highest looks on the horizon is where Leo will come in, and it will then be in direct sight of the star Regulus, which is part of the Leo constellation. And when that happens, it is said things will be released, things will change.
In what way? Like what sort of big things we're talking about?
Well, in terms of a consciousness shift, in terms of a revolution of the mind, because what we don't need the violence of a revolution of looting and smashing windows and going on the rampage, because that's just animalistic consciousness. What we need is a revolution of the mind, people to become more aware, people to have this, shall we say, gentle rebellion and say, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore, and I'm not going to comply with this anymore. And that really is a revolution of the mind. And once you get to that stage, for you, things will change.
Gosh, and do you know what month roughly alignment's happening, or is it just 2026?
2026 that it comes in alignment. And when it comes into alignment, that is when it is said that things will change. I mean, already there was a date mentioned specifically inside the Great Pyramid where there would be a return. And that year was 2001 AD. So from 2001 AD, which is the 17th 360-year cycle, it is when it says that ancient knowledge would return. So even in our generation, now what I've worked out, and I've come to this figure from multiple different directions. I kept getting this year of this time period of 26 years. So from 2024 to 2050, the world is going to change. There's going to be the return of the Redeemer. Now, the return of the Redeemer is the reactivation of the Great Pyramid. Because in the mathematics of the Great Pyramid, you have Christ and Mary Magdalene encrypted. So the return of the Redeemer is the reactivation of the Great Pyramid. And that is going to happen. It's not going to be anywhere near as long as 26 years. It's certainly going to be from 2024 to 2050. The rate and the pace at which things are going, I would imagine it would probably be more like 3 or 4 years before things change. But certainly in 2026 is when you get that alignment and things are meant to be changing. Also, when I looked at the Nazca lines, and I was basically told what to do in order to decipher what they mean. The Nazca lines are an astrological chart. And when I worked out all of the insect pictures, all of the animal pictures of the Nazca lines, I was able to correlate all of them to different constellations. So the Nazca lines are an astrological chart. Now, when I followed the map, it takes me to the center of our galaxy. And this is from the center of our galaxy that we're having these advanced energies coming towards this planet. So even then, they were talking about now.
What was the advanced energies? They're not reptilian. They're
no. Well, as in an influx of advanced knowledge, an influx of advanced frequency, an influx of advanced knowledge, and that's all coming from the center of the galaxy.
But that's coming from somewhere else, isn't it? It's like it's coming into there, and then
it is, but it's like anything else. It all meets at a certain place, and that certain place is this planet. And there's things coming from different directions, from different places, to converge at a certain time in a certain place. And that certain place is here. And the Nazca lines talk about it. The ancient monuments talk about it. There's different things that have been left from many thousands of years ago that are talking about it, because they could foresee that the world was going to change.
gosh, even before it was being created.
Yeah.
Of
course it was, because again, going into creation itself, God is not yet created. That is a universal mind. But that universal mind needed eyes and mirrors in order to reflect back and educate itself as to what it really was. So you have a 0 point, which is the blackness, the nothingness, the void. From that, you have an idea. The moment you have an idea, you have a physical universe. That is the Big Bang of science.
So a giant version of our brain. Our brain is just the small version of that.
Yes, yes. So what we are existing in is a dream state. Everything is in a dream state, because it is the universal mind that is having a dream, multiple dreams, multiple nesting dreams, dreams within dreams within dreams, in order to understand what it is. The void, the 0 point, is the darkness of a dreamless sleep. So the moment you begin to dream, you then start getting picture images. You then start to experience things. And that is what we are doing. Now, when science talks about in X amount of billions of years, when it says that our predictions say that the physical universe will just vanish, that it'll be no longer in existence, what they're really describing is when the universal mind goes back to its dream state.
And it's interesting, you've got the same number I got, because I always get 6 billion, 600 million. I always get a 6, and you said it's a 6 as well.
Yes.
And science systems said it's 6 billion.
Well, when you look at the Bible, and again, there's also mistranslation. We have the Bible saying, "In the beginning." Now, when you look at that phrase, "in the beginning," it comes from the Hebrew phrase, Bereshit. Bereshit really means, in the beginning, he created 6.
Oh, wow.
So what is she talking about is the hexagram. The hexagram then could take us into phi. It can take us into the beehive. It can take us into Adam and Eve, because that's what Adam and Eve are, the hexagram. So that's what it is. Now, the first shape in creation is the triangle, which is the Trinity, the biblical Trinity. And the vesica Piscis is the source of all geometric shape. The vesica Piscis is Mary Magdalene. Now, inside the mandala of the vesica Piscis, you have a unit number from left to right of 153, which is the numerical value of the name Mary Magdalene. But inside that, you have the triangle. Now, the triangle is 180 degrees, which is pi, mathematical pi. Now, the feast of Mary Magdalene Day, is the 22nd of July. 22 over 7 is pi.
Can you just go back to 180 being pi for the viewers? What's 100, and for me, how is 180 pi? Just, it's a triangle?
Basically, a triangle will always be 180 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 180 degrees is 1 pi radian. So 180 degrees is mathematical pi. Right. So the triangle, the Trinity, is pi. Now, that comes from out of the vesica Piscis, the womb of creation. And Mary Magdalene Day, the 22nd of July.
The fishes.
The two fishes.
Vesica Piscis. Just to draw for the viewers.
But the vesica Piscis is really the source of all geometric creation. So Mary Magdalene is the wisdom of the cosmos. And when you start looking at these different component parts, you see that it's all geometric. It's all geometry.
She's Isis.
No. Isis is the nature of existence. That's what Isis is. Now, when we see the veil of Isis is the inaccessibility of nature's secrets. Now, we learn nature's secrets because she allows us to see them through Fibonacci, through the golden ratio.
Is that of the 7 veils?
Again, the number 7 is relating to chakras and the key number of the third dimension.
But revelation as well, 7 veils.
Yeah.
Just said that.
Well, but revelation is to reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you go beyond the veil, things are revealed to you. So it's a case of these understandings of nature. When you look at Egyptian mythology, you have Set, the brother of Osiris, who kills Osiris, and Isis recreates him. Okay, and then Horus becomes a reincarnation of Osiris. Now, the whole myth and the story is talking about avenging the destruction of wisdom. It's not real people, it's not real gods.
Right, no, I understand that.
It's talking about a metaphorical thing. And Isis is metaphorical, Mary Magdalene is metaphorical, Christ is metaphorical. Mother Mary, which relates to the planet Venus, which relates to the heaven, which relates to the star of the ocean, Stella Maris, is talking about the pentagram. The pentagram is the symbol of the mysteries. Why was it an apple in the Garden of Eden? Because if you slice an apple widthways, it reveals the pentagram. It is the secret of the mysteries. Now, when you put the hexagram and the pentagram and you merge them, it becomes the 7-horned goat that Christ appears as in Revelation. It is the amalgamation of two. Now, when you get the amalgamation of the pentagram and the hexagram, it becomes the pi-phi system. And that becomes the secret that is contained within the pyramid of Deshur in Egypt, the bent pyramid, which relates to the hexagram and the pentagram. So it is all mathematical.
Mathematical.
Creation. Now, the Great Pyramid is also an antenna, but it is a perfect antenna because it uses correct pi. But when you then start looking at the womb is an antenna that is attuned to the frequency of cosmic creation. And that is what the Great Pyramid is. It is a womb. It is attuned to creation. Now, when you start looking at the Grand Gallery, which relates again to 153, because it's 153 feet long, it has 153 steps. The entrance of the Great Pyramid is on the 17th course level. If you add up all the numbers from 1 to 17, it equals 153. Mary Magdalene has a numerical value of 153. Christ caught 153 fish. Christ's ministry lasted 153 weeks. 1 plus 5 plus 3 gives us 9, which gives us higher understanding. So when you start looking at what is the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid, it is the vaginal canal. And it is an antenna tuned to the frequency of creation.
Oh,
The
wow.
cosmic one, which is Mother Mary.
Cosmic. Is Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene the same thing?
Yes, they are.
Yes, somebody told me this, so I am right. Okay, they're the same. And then number 17, can you just tell us, because for me 17 has been quite an interesting number repeating in my life. Tell us a bit about why number 17 is so special.
Most numbers are special, but some are seemingly more special than others. So we have number 7, which relates to, again, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Now, when I did an interview many years ago, there was a psychic medium that watched the show and said every time you spoke, a number 17 appeared on your head. Now, when I was at training school in the police, my room number was 1717.
Wow.
So, and again, just like you, there's been so many number 17s in my life as well. But when you look at the mathematics of Magdalene, Christ, the Great Pyramid, it revolves around 153, which revolves around 17. So it is really an ancient wisdom. It's a higher understanding of ancient things and secret knowledge. So number 17 is an important number. All of these things are mathematical genius that are there to teach us about ourselves. Because mathematics, when you understand geometry and mathematics, you are automatically engaging with a higher place. Science is looking for matter. It is looking for what it calls stuff. There's no such thing as matter. There's no such thing as stuff. What science needs to be looking at is shape in motion. That is how the universe is made. Shape in motion. So you have shape in motion and you have shape that is static. And when you have shape that is static, you get the geometric shapes that we see on churches, cathedrals, crop circles. That is static shape.
What's shape in motion then? Is that sound?
Partly, yeah. Because when we look at a crop circle, when we look at a beautiful snowflake, what we are really looking at is the shape of the sound.
Yes, flakes are really interesting, aren't they? And they're all different patterns as well, and it's to do with sound frequency. And you said the pyramids were built through sound. Can you just explain that? I do believe that. And Stonehenge, I think, was built through sound as well.
It was. Stonehenge was basically rotated into place, levitated, rotated into place. The Great Pyramid was mapped on, I think, Mars, and it was built from the top down using sound. Now, when you there's so many. When you go into these ancient temples, they are all sound amplifications.
Yes.
And is a sound amplification. A church is a sound amplification. It is all to do with sound. Now, when you look at the word Masonic, now obviously Masons built a lot of these things, but the word Masonic is light and sound. Ma is light, sonic is sound. Light and sound. And this is how, during initiation, you learn. Because light enables you to see, and sound enables you to listen. So Masonic means light and sound. And it is really Masons learning Egyptian masonry, which is Egyptian knowledge, which came through the Hermetics. So it is sound. When we see beautiful geometry, we are seeing the shape of the environment.
The original esoteric knowledge, like all this knowledge you're teaching us today, it was good. I mean, it's neutral, can be used for good or bad, but what I've noticed is a lot of the symbols and esoteric knowledge has been inverted. I noticed this a lot. Why is that's happened? A lot of people might not know about it, but they invert the symbols.
They do.
What's that about?
Because it gives it a different meaning, it gives it a different vibration, it gives it a different emanation.
Is it to confuse us? Maybe the rainbow one's very interesting because the original meaning's very different to what it means now.
It's to confuse the ones who have no understanding of it.
Okay.
If you have an understanding of it, you are not confused by it. You understand what it means. It's the same when somebody came up to me to talk that I was doing and said, "Why do you have gargoyles at a church? It doesn't make sense. They shouldn't be there." And I said, "Actually, to the contrary, they should be there because what they're telling you is the ugliness of the human condition and the wings and the flight of the human potential. So gargoyles should be there because they are giving you a secret message. So you are only confused by things if you don't understand it. If you do a quiz, a pub quiz or anything else, if you know the answers, you're not confused. You just write down the answers and you win the quiz. If you don't know the answer, then you struggle, you get confused, you don't know. So for those who understand, it is not a confusion. For those who don't understand, whether or not it's inverted or not, it'll still be a confusion because they don't understand what it means. There's been so many misrepresentations, and especially by the so-called truth movements. The truth movements are probably the worst at misunderstanding the sacred symbols, and they're giving it all of this misdirected meaning, and people are believing what the truth groups are telling them.
Are they the New Age people?
Well, New Age is part of it, but you know, you have like the truth groups that are set up. You have different people who are talking in the alternative arena that are saying certain things. The New Age is a big part of it, but there's all of these people that have sprung up saying that, you know, 666 is a devil's number, that Baphomet is a symbol of the goat, of Mendes. It's nothing of the sort. And it's these kind of misunderstandings, especially in relation to the truth group movements, who are leading people just as astray as the ones they're accusing of leading people astray, because they are not understanding the original meaning of the symbols, of the signs, and they're making up their own meanings, and then they're making their own followings around this falsity of truth.
Why is 999 the emergency number in the UK? Is that because that's an example of what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, when
you see it everywhere in advertising, you see symbols.
Yeah, 999 in spiritual science is obviously one before 1,000. 1,000 is the self-master, the conqueror.
Wow.
Lotus leaves of Buddha.
Yeah.
So it is really an advanced state of knowledge just prior to the mastery of self.
So why did they make it the emergency? They've inverted it, haven't they?
Well, again, 666 is not a bad number.
No.
666 really means a follower of light. But going back to what I said about higher understanding is number 9. When the fetus comes into this world in its mother's womb, it is upside down. So that 9, that higher understanding, becomes number 6, which is lower understanding. You then have to take it upon yourself to invert the number 6 back to a number 9. So you go from lower understanding to higher understanding. So all of these things are encrypted in everything. When you look at the police is associated with blue. Blue is associated with spiritual protection. When you look at the likes of paramedics, they're in green. Green is the spiritual colour of healing. When you look at the fire brigade, they're red. Well, red is the spiritual colour of fire. So these things that we're seeing in this three-dimensional world have a spiritual origin.
But then they've been kind of controlled a bit and manipulated.
As I said, everything has been controlled and manipulated. We've been given this reality that is not a true reality, but everybody accepts it as being true because we're programmed to believe and accept it is true.
I think a lot of people now, this is just from gauging from some of my TikTok comments or my predictions, a lot of people now are sort of awakening to that, and they're, even if they weren't psychic, they're just kind of thinking, yes, actually, this isn't right. Like more so in the last couple of years, or especially since 2020. They're kind of, even if they're not spiritual, so they're not interested in it at all, they're sort of cottoning on. They're thinking, actually, this isn't right.
Yes.
Something's here. Do you know?
But that's where it starts. You know, the first thing you have to do is have a realization that there's something amiss, that there's something that doesn't make sense. And from that realization, well, it can take you in many different directions. But you then, okay, I realize there's something not right. So what is it? What is not right? And then people will look into it in their own way as to why things are not right. And ultimately, you come to the same conclusion, is that there are people in power that are making it not right, that are making things backwards, that are making things ridiculous, that are making things that have extremely simple solutions, and they're not doing it. And then you start to realize, well, things happen because they are meant to happen. People are homeless because they're meant to be homeless. People are crippled by debt because they are meant to be crippled by debt. People are meant to be starving and hungry because politically that is manipulated that way. So everything that happens because it is made to happen, not because it is some natural bad luck.
Yes, this is what I agree. It's very much created. The times have been, I call it, how do I phrase it? Not manipulated, distorted, created, hijacked.
Yes, it is. And it leads you on a trail as to, okay, then it's been hijacked, so who's hijacked it? And then you start looking into who that is. But everything happens because it is meant to happen that way. And it goes back to what is used to forge foreign policy. Ignorant military, who are used to stamp down the people who are trying to revolt against oppression, the police. And when you begin to realize that, there is no way that anybody with an ounce of intelligence could ever work for those organizations again. Because you realize that you are being used to oppress the people.
Yeah, it's like Minions, isn't it? You know, that cartoon, little minions, and then we're kind of told what to do. We don't really have any thoughts or, you know.
That's right. If you want the answer to stop wars, I could stop wars overnight. You make the politicians who cause them go and fight them. That will stop war overnight.
Yeah, no, they just background, don't they?
Exactly. They send your children to die, and they send theirs to Yale and to Oxford and to Eton.
Sure.
It's about time we said no, isn't it?
The war is.
It's about time we said, why are you sending me to this foreign land to destroy and replace a government? Because you're telling me that this government is a terrorist organisation, and yet the biggest terror organisation in the world is being supported by America and the UK, and that's Israel. So what is different between what Putin's doing and what Netanyahu's doing?
It's interesting how a certain president recently was saying he wanted peace in a certain area of the world, but then he said he wanted the Ukraine war to stop, but then he was saying he wants to take over Gaza Strip. That could provoke something, couldn't it? I wonder. What's that about? That's like mind games or something, isn't it?
It is. What's happening is we have what is known as a Zionist agenda, and that Zionist agenda is for an Israeli state. But it's not just the small country we call Israel now. There's also a region called Greater Israel. And when you start looking at what Greater Israel is, it's the likes of Palestine, Canaanite lands, the Gaza Strip, parts of Sinai, Syria, and it begins to expand through the Middle East. And that is the Greater Israel. Now, I would suggest that the atrocity that happened to the Jewish people at this party in the October by Hamas, they knew about it and they allowed it to happen. Because it gives them an excuse. The same way as the American government and the British government knew that Pearl Harbor was going to be bombed.
Oh,
They allowed it to be bombed. In the same way, the Israeli secret services would have known that this atrocity was going to happen to Jewish people, because what it then gives them was the excuse to then flatten as much as the Middle East as they could, in order for it to be rebuilt as part of Greater Israel. Now, Netanyahu is a war criminal who should be in prison.
After,
Yet,
aren't they, for war?
yet he's being paraded as some kind of hero.
Mm.
So tell me again, anybody, what is the difference between Putin and Netanyahu?
Do you know what my TikTok followers call Netanyahu? Satanyahu.
Yeah. So there's a excuse me, a daytime TV show, and I just came across one of their posts the other day, and it's got a picture of Trump and Netanyahu, and the TV show was saying, how do you feel about this man being a danger to the world, referring to Trump? And I just said, I think you should be looking at Netanyahu if you're talking about a danger to the world, because the biggest terrorist state is Israel. But because Zionists have actually infiltrated every government of the world, what we are seeing is a push towards Greater Israel. Okay. And it's funny how no matter what Israel does, it's always justified, it's always okay, they're always defending themselves. When yet anybody else that does that kind of thing across the world is a terrorist organization. We must destroy them. We must replace their government. So again, tell me, what is the difference between what the press and the media are telling us that Putin is doing to Ukraine? What is the difference between that and what Netanyahu is doing to the Palestinian people? Because Israel is not their country. It is Palestinian land, and they are unlawfully occupying Palestinian land.
Wasn't Israel created after the Second World War?
In 1948 as part of the Balfour Agreement.
Wasn't called Israel before that, was it?
No, it's Canaanite. Palestine is Canaanite land. But the reason they believe that they have the right to take it is because in their Bible that was written by them, it says that God permits them to basically put a flag anywhere on the map and say this is ours.
Oh, right. Gosh, very political.
That's why.
Before this, very fascinating stuff, this war. I always find war and politics fascinating. It's in my background. My granddad and all quite sort of political politicians and people. I didn't become one, luckily. Right. I've got a few minutes left. I wanted to ask you, do you have any world predictions for us in the coming year or couple of years? What are you seeing? Anything you've downloaded? Anything? Humanity? Anything?
What am I seeing? I'm seeing what I've already said about a dimensional split. I see us just getting by the day closer and closer to that dimensional split. I've been noticing it for quite a while, and I've always, for the last couple of years now, I've been posing the question to myself: is it getting worse, or am I just getting further away from it? There is a greater and greater split. There are more and more people beginning to realise that there's something not right, and more people that realise there's something not right, they will look at why, and that will take them on a complete journey of discovery. What I'm hoping for is more and more of a mental revolution, where people become more aware, where people become more aware that they're being completely scammed each and every day.
We think is there long? I don't think he's there long. I think he'll go this year. Do you think anyone better's coming?
No. I think Starmer is an absolute abomination. The Labour government is an absolute disgrace. But I also think that the Conservative Party is an absolute disgrace. But what you are looking at is the blue and red of Freemasonry, the blue lodges and the red lodges. They're an absolute disgrace. They don't serve the people, they serve themselves. Gosh,
so it doesn't look good for the cabinet then, does it? You don't think the next Prime Minister won't be as good, or it just equally be as bad? Gosh, we're not going into times.
These people are inserted into position. Are inserted into position to push the world in a certain direction.
Right. Okay. So it's a must to actually evolve through this.
We don't have a choice. We don't have a democracy. If I go to my member of parliament, who is meant to be my voice at government level, and the rest of her constituents go to her and say, we want you to put this idea forward, and she turns around and says, I can't. I've been forced to vote with the government. And if I don't vote with the government, I will be suspended from the party. How's that democracy?
No, it's true. Okay. So
it's a dictatorship under the guise, and Keir Starmer is a dictator.
Mm-hmm. So it's up to us individually to get onto that higher frequency and wake up and do what we can to navigate away from all of this and create our own kind of the right timeline for us. So it's down to us. We can't rely on governments.
We need to stop voting for them. We need to stop complying with them. We need to stop accepting what they say. If they are public servants and I'm a member of the public, then they serve me. So what gives them the right to tell me what to do? When you start looking at it in that way, you realise that they're not public servants. They're out to serve themselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, to serve themselves. Awful, isn't it? But hopefully we can see a way through. Thank you.
It gives us an opportunity to see.
Yes. Thank you so much, Michael. And yes, buy Michael's book. It's very good, The Movement, and hope to see you again soon, maybe in a few months' time. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Very fascinating discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you. You take care.